Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to show you how easy it is to clean the coils on your refrigerator at home. This will help it to run more efficiently, use less electricity, and last a lot longer. Oh hey, is your fridge running? Well, I think it is. Then you better go catch it! Let's get started. There are a couple of specialty but pretty inexpensive tools available to make this job a lot easier. The first are these long, skinny brushes that are designed specifically for cleaning refrigerator coils. They're very flexible, so they'll fit in between lots of the little nooks and crannies and crevices under your refrigerator, and the brushes that are on them are pretty soft so they won't damage the coils. I have two different kinds I'm going to be using. The first has these nylon bristles and is a little bit more coarse or a little stiffer, and the second has a much softer bristle that is easier to fit in between some of the tighter coils that I'm going to be cleaning today. The other tool that I can recommend is a long, flexible crevice attachment for your vacuum cleaner. Now, if you've never seen one of these before, it's very similar to the crevice tool that came with your vacuum, except that it's a lot longer and very flexible. Again, this will help it to be able to bend around the corners and in between the coils to suck out all that dust. This one is a specific attachment for my brand of vacuum cleaner, but lots of brands have these attachments available, and there's universal ones if your brand doesn't have one. I'll leave links to these as well as the brushes down in the description below. Now, in order to do the cleaning that we need to do for these coils, we're going to have to pull the refrigerator out from the wall, and that's because the coils themselves are located along the back or along the underside of the refrigerator, or in some cases it's kind of in both little areas that kind of wrap around the corner. Now, refrigerators are on wheels, so they're pretty easy to pull straight out from the wall, but they don't really pivot and rotate around very easily. They generally only slide forward and backward. And so in my specific situation, I've got a little bit of an extra challenge where I've got this bar that comes out right here. When I pull my fridge out, I still can't get in behind it very well because there's just not room. I'm gonna have to slide it around on my floor, pull it out into the center part of the kitchen so I have a little bit better access. Now, I don't want to slide it around on my wood floors and potentially scratch them up, so one tip, I like to use a piece of cardboard like this, just an old cardboard box. We'll just put it down there. We'll pull the fridge onto the cardboard box, and then I can slide it around without damaging my floors. You can leave your food in the fridge during this whole cleaning process. Just keep the doors closed and everything will stay nice and cold. Now, keep in mind a refrigerator is quite heavy, especially while it's full of food, so be careful and safe while moving the fridge and get some help if you need it. Alright, with the fridge pulled out, you can see just how dirty it is down here underneath where the fridge was. There's all kinds of dust and debris that's collected. And you can see there's some pretty big dust bunnies and things that are going to really restrict airflow underneath this fridge. We're going to get all this stuff cleaned up, and that'll help make the airflow a little bit easier underneath and behind the refrigerator itself. However, this is not the only thing we need to clean. At the bottom of the refrigerator, there's this access panel down here. We're going to remove this access panel, which is going to give us access to the coils themselves. Now, for me, removing this access panel is going to be really simple. It just uses some Phillips screws. Yours may use something a little bit different. You may need to consult your owner's manual to make sure you got the correct tools to remove this panel. Before you do anything though, the very first thing you need to do is unplug the power. Now, you may find one other thing connected to the back of your fridge, a water line like this for an ice maker or a water dispenser. This is an excellent opportunity to check the fittings to make sure nothing's leaking. If it is, then you can shut off the supply at the wall, make any repairs that you need to. I've checked mine, there's no leaks at all, and I'm going to leave it connected while I do the cleaning, and as long as yours isn't leaking, you can do the same. After I've picked up anything that's probably too large for my vacuum to get, I'll use the brush attachment on my vacuum to get most of this dust out from behind the fridge. Clean off the surface of the access panel and then remove the fasteners and place them somewhere safe off to the side where you won't accidentally vacuum or sweep them up. Yeah, I'm speaking from personal experience here. Then carefully remove the panel. With the access panel removed, take a look around and see what it looks like underneath your fridge. This one is a little bit dirty with the components on this side, but my coils are pretty nasty. As I mentioned before, having dirty coils makes your fridge work a lot harder to keep your food cold. Your refrigerator works a lot like an air conditioner, and just like your air conditioner, there are heat exchangers set up to, well, exchange heat. These coils are a heat exchanger, and they need to have airflow freely across them to carry away the heat from the system. With the coils all blocked up like this, the heat exchanging takes longer and works less efficiently. So my fridge has to keep the compressor running longer at a time to maintain the right temperature inside. I'll start the cleaning process with my vacuum's regular brush attachment to knock off and suck up all of the dust collected on the outer surfaces. Once I've vacuumed everything I can reach, I'll switch to using the long, skinny Coil cleaning brushes. It can be helpful to pause every so often to vacuum the collected dust off of the brush. If you're having a hard time guiding the brush in between the coils, you may find it helpful to bend the tip of the brush back over on itself. The sharp point of metal on the front of these brushes can easily catch on the coils, and folding it over this way prevents that from happening. Refrigerator coil designs vary a lot. Many are wide and flat, sort of like the rack in an oven. Some are more compactly set up, like this one. Additionally, this one has extra fins all along the coils, which make it a little tricky to get the brush in between all the loops to do an effective job with the cleaning. No matter what style of coils you encounter with your fridge, my best advice is to go slowly and to be gentle. Don't force anything, as you don't want to accidentally cause any damage. Once you've brushed out the coils as well as you can, the flexible crevice tool I mentioned earlier is super handy for reaching into the really hard to get places and sucking out any remaining dust that the brushes have dislodged. You may need to switch back and forth between the various cleaning methods, and sometimes it can be helpful to use both a brush and the long crevice tool at the same time. Also, make sure that you're inspecting the coils from lots of different angles as you do the cleaning. Sometimes it may look like the coils are really clean until you look from the other side and realize you may have missed a whole bunch. And after about 10 minutes of cleaning with the brush and the vacuum, here's what the coils look like now. As you can see, they're lots cleaner. There's almost no dust left on them, and they're going to work much more efficiently, which will allow my refrigerator compressor to run less often, ultimately saving me some money in electricity and making my refrigerator last a lot longer. My kitchen refrigerator only has coils at the lower rear of the unit. However, it's very common to have coils that extend under the fridge all the way to the front, like in this fridge that I have in my garage. This is an older style fridge, but it still works well despite having been involved in a minor car accident. For this style, there is still a small access panel to remove at the lower rear of the fridge, which reveals a truly horrible mess that I can't wait to get cleaned up. However, in addition to the access panel at the rear of the fridge, there will be a small kick panel at the lower front edge of the fridge that's generally just held on by a couple of clips. Now, the kick panel on this particular fridge was lost years ago due to that minor fender bender I mentioned, and so I can't show you exactly how to remove it, but in general, you just pop them off by pulling gently straight towards the front of the fridge. With that panel removed, you should find some openings similar to these ovals that provide plenty of access to clean the coils. Reaching in to clean these lower coils can be pretty tricky. You're going to need a flashlight and possibly some yoga poses to get them cleaned out. The cleaning process, though, is the same for this style of fridge as what I demonstrated in my kitchen. I like to start by getting what I can with the vacuum's brush attachment and then move on to the long skinny brushes, finishing up by using the long flexible crevice tool to get the rest. Here are some shots of the coils that are accessible from the lower rear portion of my garage fridge, both before and after I've cleaned them. As you can see, the cleaning makes a huge difference. And here are some before and after shots with the borescope of the coils that run along the bottom of my fridge that I cleaned through the access panel at the front, again showing a huge improvement. So these coils are looking nice and clean. However, if you do have access to an air compressor, there's one additional step you can take, and that is to use some compressed air to kind of blast out the very last bit of dust that's going to be stuck on these coils. This is by no means necessary, but is a nice optional step if you have access to a compressor. And after that blast of air from my air compressor, as you can see, these coils now look fantastically clean. Now, I want to reiterate, you don't have to use an air compressor to clean these. If you've just got a vacuum and a little brush, you'll do a great job of getting most of that dust out of there, which will make a big difference in how efficiently your refrigerator can run. With the coils super clean now, it's time to put everything back. So we'll start by replacing the rear panel, but don't forget to vacuum off any dust that you might find on the inside face of that rear panel, otherwise you'll just get your coils dirty that much more quickly. Make sure you secure the panel back in with all the screws that were in there in the first place, and then you can plug the power back in for your fridge and push the fridge back into place. One final thing to mention, a fridge with very dirty coils will struggle to keep your food cold, so I like to keep these small, inexpensive thermometers in my fridge to confirm that all the food inside is being kept at the proper temperature. Well, as you can see, this is not a very difficult or daunting process. The hardest part is probably just pulling the refrigerator away from the wall in the first place. If that's something you're going to struggle with, I recommend you have a friend come over and help with that part. Now, I recommend cleaning your refrigerator like this about once every year or so, unless you have pets that shed. Pet hair is especially prone to getting sucked into those coils and blocking them up. If you have pets that shed, I recommend you clean it about once every 6 months. Now, cleaning out your coils, as you saw, doesn't really take very long. 10 or 15 minutes or so is really all it should take. And that small investment of your time is really going to pay off in the long run, because your refrigerator's compressor will run way less often, which will save you money on your electricity bill, and it will help your refrigerator to last a lot longer. These are expensive appliances, and I don't want to have to replace it any sooner than absolutely necessary. Hey, if you've learned a little something or enjoyed this video, you can let me know about that with a thumbs up down below. If I did something incorrectly or there's something you want to see done differently, you can tell me about that down in the comments. I try and read them all and respond to the ones that I can. And if you're interested in seeing more content like this, of course, you can always think about subscribing, but there's never any pressure there for me, of course. And as always, thank you very much for watching.